Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the YEG MS podcast, available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and now on the MS and Me radio network. I had a great weekend last weekend attending the MS mountain bike in Hinton, Alberta, Canada. And oddly enough, that's what this show is about. I have a quick interview with the lead fundraiser and one of the primary organizers, Greg Van Tighem. And I also had a bunch of high school buddies from 20 years ago do the ride with me. And I have a few quick clips of their thoughts. But first up, here are my thoughts on the ride. After years of doing the MS bike tour from Leduc to Camrose, I decided this year that instead of doing that event, I would do the MS mountain bike in Hinton, Alberta. And sort of the prime mover behind the switch was I don't really particularly like road biking, and I grew up mountain biking in the mountains. I grew up in Kamloops, BC, so Edmonton was kind of a bit of a shock when I first moved here 20 years ago. Anyway, so my dad had been doing the Hinton mountain bike with his good friend Paul for years now, and they bugged me to try it. And my dad was convinced that I would love it. So last weekend, for the first time, I went out to Hinton to do the Hinton MS mountain bike, and my dad was bang on. It was it was awesome. It was just a lot of fun. So starting last Friday, I made the 3-hour drive to Hinton by myself, and I was driving there to meet 3 really good friends from high school. We graduated together in 1994. It kind of gives you an indication of how old we are. And just in the last few years, we've reconnected, and last summer we spent a week out on at the lake together. This summer we're doing this. We did this Hinton mountain bike ride, and it's been really fantastic. So Adam, Andy, and Matt, thanks again for coming. And Matt also brought his wife Janine. Adam and Andrew live in Kamloops. Matt came up from North Vancouver with his wife Janine. It's really nice to have that support and people showing up. So anyway, last Friday I made a 3-hour drive to Hinton. And to be honest with you, I've driven the Yellowhead Highway from Edmonton to Kamloops hundreds of times. And I've never really stopped in Hinton. It's on the way. Stopped there for gas, but never really explored. There was a pulp mill there, and if you're familiar with towns with pulp mills, there's just there's an odor from the mill, and I just never really spent much time there. But Hinton is right on the border of the Jasper National Park, so I mean it's mountainous. I mean you can see the Rockies from Hinton, and you're very much in the high foothills to almost smaller mountains, so that terrain. But again, never really stopped there. So I checked into the KOA. I had rented a what they called on their website the deluxe cabin, and certainly deluxe is in air quotes. Because it would sleep several people, so a bunch of us were all going to sleep there, kind of split the cost. But I arrived a lot earlier than everyone else. It's only about a 3-hour drive from Edmonton to Hinton, where from Kamloops it's 5 or 6, and North Vancouver I would imagine it was probably 10 for them. So I had a few hours to kill when I got there. So I had my kids were in Red Deer with visiting their grandparents, and I had a glorious nap. But anyway, that's not really the point. So anyway, we stayed over Friday night. We were smart. We, even though you're getting together with a bunch of old high school buddies, we didn't get too crazy, and thankfully so, because at 9 a.m. on Saturday the ride started, and it was rainy and it was overcast and it was muddy, and day one, you're pretty much climbing. From what I remember, it's not too steep for the first little bit, but then probably the last hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, you're climbing, and you're going through some pretty dense forest, over roots, over mud. It was some single track, some road, and it was just it was a tough day of riding, and I think everyone in our group probably was thinking, oh my Lord, what did I get myself into? But we pushed through to lunch, and lunch was at this really nice little, I don't know if it was a hunting lodge or what, but lunch was good. And then one of the interesting things that happened all weekend is when you get a bunch of guys together who really bonded in their mid to late teens. It certainly doesn't take very long to devolve back into the maturity of a 16-year-old. We had kind of joked about having a pool on who was going to have the first big wipeout, and I think the odds-on favorite was Andy, and he did wipe out first. But truth be told, it was Adam pushing him Andrew into a bush. So I guess that comes with an asterisk. But as luck would have it, the sun came out later in the day on day one, and there was actually a pretty nice downhill after a long time. Just prior to the finish line, it was on a wide mountain gravel road, and you got going pretty good clip. And I had struggled to keep up with the rest of my group most of the day. So I thought, well, okay, there's a bit of a downhill here. I'll take off, get ahead of them, and that way they don't have to wait for me. But unfortunately for me, I got going pretty fast. I missed a sign, and I went way past where I was supposed to turn. So I ended up adding about 3 kilometers to my day. I could have been longer, but luckily that road dead ended at some campsites, and a lady flagged me down and said, "Hey, you missed your turn. You need to go back." Obviously, I wasn't the only one that had done it, but near the end of your day like that, it was I was pretty pissed off that I missed it. But then the finish line day one, you end up at this, I believe it's called Kelly's Bathtub, and it's an alpine lake, clear water, sandy beach. There's a little sort of camping area, stop area there that where we came into, and that's when we found that one of our team members, and I should add to this that this gentleman at one point in his life played in the National Hockey League, so he was a professional athlete. He was the second rider to finish, and he finished about over 2 hours quicker than the rest of us did. And he was there so soon that when he was there, the finish area wasn't even really set up, so he had to help them. Well, I don't think he had to. I think he volunteered to help them finish setting it up. So I think my goal is next year to try and train so I can at least stay in the radius of Paul. And we had 2 Pauls in our team. The older Paul is our team captain, and then the younger Paul, the former professional athlete. But anyway, yeah, my goal is to trying to stay in the same radius of him. I think it's a good goal to have but that was just unreal, because if you saw the stuff we were riding on, it was steep. It was, I think we did 47 kilometers the first day, and it took 4 hours. I mean, a decent runner, not even a good, but a decent runner can run 10K in an hour. So that kind of gives you a sense of the terrain and the conditions. Anyway, Saturday night, I felt 40. I seldomly feel 40 years old. And honestly, it has nothing to do with me having MS. It was just, it was a long day of climbing, and thank God the other guys I with were feeling the same way. I think when you get together with people that you haven't seen for a while, there's kind of you almost feel a pressure to really amp it up and put your party shoes on. But now thinking about it in retrospect, it judging by the way everyone was acting. I think everyone was hoping that somebody would be the sensible one. So we went to the dinner they have for all the riders at the Hinton Friendship Center that night, and beers were cheap and dinner was good. And actually, the food on this ride was really good compared to other either bike rides I've done or ultra running events that I've done. I mean, I think fantastic job by the race organizers. Anyway, so we went there for dinner, and I think every other guy was worried that there was going to be one or two guys that really wanted to have a bunch of beers and that and that. But by this point, I mean, I think we were all ready for bed when we got there around 6 in the evening. And comments kept flying around like, what time is it? And then we'd realize it's only 6:30. And then, you could kind of see that collective groan like, oh boy, we still got more hours. We've got to stay awake. And back to my point, like that's when I really felt like a 40-year-old man, which again, I seldomly do, but so we decided to just have a few beers back at the cabin and head to bed. I think Matt and I had one each, and I think we were the only ones who had any, and then we were in bed by 10. When I saw my mom at the start line the next morning and I told her that we were in bed by 10, she couldn't believe it, but I said, Mom, like, this isn't these guys when we were 20. We're all 40 now. And 10 o'clock, when you've ridden almost 50 kilometers up a mountain, it's time for bed. So anyway, Sunday at 8:30 a.m., we head back down to the Friendship Center. They had, juice, coffee, and Tim Hortons breakfast sandwiches. And then we hop on a school bus and they take us back up to Kelly's bathtub to start up where we left off the night before. And so I think we started riding maybe 9:15, 9:30. And wouldn't you know it, I get about 200 meters past the start line, my chain breaks. I've been riding bikes my whole life, and I'm a 40-year-old man. I've never broken a chain before. And so that was the first one for me. But luckily, there was a trail marshal there, and he patched it up for me. We got going. And like I said, I've been struggling to keep up with my buddies, and I was actually feeling kind of a little bit crappy about myself. I thought, with all the ultra running and stuff that I've been doing, even though I really didn't train to do this bike ride, I thought with all the running and stuff that I've been doing that I should be fine, and that my lungs should be fine and I should be able to do just fine. But I was really struggling to keep up. But I was riding the whole thing on a hardtail, and if you're not familiar, a hardtail is a mountain bike that doesn't have suspension in the back. I mean, most people grew up with bikes that didn't have suspension, but I'm just saying that now it's more common to have full suspension than not. So I was riding it without. So every route, every bump, every little nook and cranny over 50 odd kilometers I felt. But anyway, so Adam was really bugging me to switch bikes with him. He wanted me to try his bike, and he's got this really nice, super high-end, full suspension bike. And then so we switched, and man, that was a game changer. And I realized why I was having trouble keeping up is that they were all riding full suspension and I wasn't, and it did make a huge difference. But then of course the chain won't. I almost wonder if Adam was out to trash my old bike. Not seriously, but he just mentioned, he's like, I'm going to ride this thing hard. And well, the chain broke again. So then one of the stops halfway through day 2 is at the airport. So we got the bike mechanic there Adam got the bike mechanic there to fix it the best he could. There was a derailleur problem. It looked like it maybe got hit. So we had a bit of lunch at the airport there. We're not even 50 meters out of the gate, and the chain didn't break this time. The whole derailleur actually fell off. Like it was dangling off the back wheel. So, we're about 25 kilometers from the finish line, and we're wondering how we're going to do this. Well, luckily enough, at that time while we were waiting to get the bike fixed, my dad and the older Paul had shown up at the airport and talking to them, explaining what happened, and I was just going to catch a ride back down to the Friendship Center and then wait for everybody else to finish their day. I mean, what can you do? You don't have a bike. And my dad said, hey, just take my bike and finish. I'll take your bike down. So we swapped bikes, and I can't thank him enough for allowing me to finish. It was really cool to finish with everybody. And what, you know, it's funny how things happen sometimes, because we were ahead of my dad and the older Paul, who's our team captain, and the older Paul does a lot for raising money for the MS Society. He's been running the Battered Piles bike team, which is the name of our MS bike team. He's been running it for a really long time, and it was nice for him to be able to ride with us, and then we all crossed the finish line at the same time. Like, it was, you know, sometimes things happen for a reason, I suppose. But anyway, so my dad and we switched bikes, and so I ended up day 3. I used 3 different bikes to get finished, but you know, hey, it was well worth it. But overall, so that was kind of a real quick overview of the weekend from my perspective. But what I would say is that the bike ride in Hinton, the Hinton MS mountain bike, phenomenal event. And if you are in Western Canada, or if you're anywhere, I mean, maybe you're independently wealthy and it sounds like a good idea. Like, I mean, even for people where maybe MS hasn't touched their lives, but just enjoy mountain biking, it would be a hell of an event for them too. I mean, it's just, the race organizers do a really, really good job. The course is beautiful. The view is amazing. Like I said, Hint was far nicer than I could have imagined. And not saying anything poorly about Hinton. I just really had never heard much about Hinton, and I've only buzzed through it on the highway. Like, I never bothered to stop and wander around. But the event's phenomenal, and it's a lot of fun. So, and if you're one of those people who was like me, where maybe the MS, the regular bike tours, the road rides aren't your thing, this might be your thing. Other people that ride on the Battered Piles road bike team for the Leduc de Camrose mentioned to me over the weekend that they prefer the Hinton mountain bike. And I understand why. Like I said, lots of fun. It's a great event, and I would recommend checking it out. I'm sure if you type in MS mountain bike Hinton, it'll come up, and you'll get all the details for next year's ride. Yeah. And fortunately enough for me, I got a chance to talk to the biggest fundraiser for the MS mountain bike this year, Greg Van Tighem, and he's also one of the primary organizers. He's the trail coordinator, I believe is what he said. And I just wanted to get a few minutes of his time, and Greg, thanks for taking the time. I know, kind of when I flagged you down there, you were right at the end of the ride, lots of stuff to do. So I appreciate you taking a few minutes out, and hopefully this can get more people, to go and experience it, because it's a wonderful event, and I'm hoping to get all the same crew out next year, and maybe a few more. But before we get to my quick chat with Greg Van Tighem and some clips from some of my friends that joined me on the ride, just want to mention again, if you want to watch this on YouTube, there will be it's the same audio, it's just you'll see some clips and pictures from the weekend. You just type in YEG MS on YouTube and it'll pop up. If you want to get a hold of me, you can always email me at Sean, SEAN, @ownmultiplesclerosis.com. Maybe you want to be a guest. Maybe you've got things you want to send me, questions, whatever. You can get a hold of me there. You can find me on Twitter at ownms.com1. That's ownms.com, and then the number 1. You can also find me on my blog, ownmultiplesclerosis.com. You can also find that on Facebook as well. So if you have a question, you want to comment on anything I've said, like I said, if you want to be a guest, I can do it via FaceTime. I can do it Skype. We can do phone. And if you're in the greater Edmonton area, we can do it in person. So that's all the housekeeping done. Coming up, here is my interview with Greg Van Tighem, who is the trail coordinator and also the lead fundraiser for the Hinton MS bike. And after that, and following that, I have some quick sound bites for some of my buddies that after the race was done. This is just after the finish line. Some of their thoughts about the ride coming to Hinton, and well, frankly, kicking the crap out of themselves for 2 days, but it was for a good cause, and I can't say enough. It was amazing that they agreed to do it, and humbling at the same time. So thanks again, Adam, Andy, Matt, Janine. Thanks for coming. Anyway, here is my conversation with Greg Van Tighem. Enjoy. Yeah, I managed to grab a few minutes with Greg Van Tighem. Are you the sole organizer of the event?
Local organizer, the trail coordinator.
Are you the one who originated it?
No, this event, the Hinton MS Mountain Bike Tour, originated. I think this is the 20th year, and I've been involved in it for about 11 years.
Now, why'd you get involved?
Well, I got involved. We started a fire department team 11 years ago, and it was one of our firefighters that had been in this event for a number of years as a marshal, and he suggested that we make a team out of our crew. So we did, and for a few years we stuck together, and then our team sort of grew, and lots of people left, and some new faces showed up, and now we've actually changed our name once, and for the last 7 years we've been the top fundraising team. And
yeah, I saw you guys raise 30 grand, and I know that, like, obviously I've raised money too, but 30 grand, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like, how do you go about that?
Well, I raised 30 grand. Our team raised 40 last year. So I do a number of things. I run farmers markets. I have 3 markets I run every year locally, and then I've also I do barbecues. I cater like golf banquets, large group functions, things like that, and I get local businesses to donate the goods, and then so basically it's my time and my labor, and I get a few people to help me serve it, and I do like 5 or 6 of those events every year. You have a personal relationship with MS? I do. I've got a few. I've got, well, I had a friend that passed away from MS 10 years ago, and one of my best friends right now is living with, he's got very progressive MS. He's in the hospital right now, actually. And I know a number of people, like, you know, I've been an ambassador with the MS Society for 7 years, and I just keep meeting people. So I know you're busy, so I'm going to let you go, but thank you very much for doing this. Do you have anything else you want to add? No, just if anybody's thinking about participating in a MS event, the Hinton MS Mountain Bike Tour is probably one of the better ones. And we are looking for new members every year, and hope you can come out and enjoy the ride. Well, I have a few buddies that came out from Camels, one from North Van, so they all said they'd come back next year. So, awesome. Yeah. All right. Else? No, thanks very much. So, quick sound bites from the Hinton MS mountain bike. First up is Andy, who I've known since about 1992, who said that I guilted him into coming. So, Andy, what'd you think of it?
That was 2 days of the hardest mountain biking I've ever done. But rest assured, when you finish, the smell of freedom is about 10 minutes before you finish the race, and that is the bustling Hinton pulp mill. Once you smell that, you know you're done the race.
But it's not bad, right? Because you know you're close.
Correct, yes. You know you're close. I'm going to go throw up now, but it was a great race. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Any overall thought of the last 2 days?
It was a lot of fun, a lot of good jokes. We had a 60-second rule where we couldn't talk about fecal matter or penises. We broke that rule a lot, but a lot of good times. Good hanging out with buddies.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Adam, you're next.
We were doing pretty well. I thought we'd get through without any mechanical failures until I rode Sean's bike and broke it a couple times, and then realized that takes a bit out of the day, but we finished strong, and it was awesome. Feel good about it. Hardest thing I ever did.
Now, I thought it was really funny yesterday when we got about 15K in, and you're like, well, personal best.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was my longest training ride. It was actually 16K. So when you said 17K, I was there. There's some high fives shared on the trail. It was good.
Final thoughts?
Get out here and do it. Awesome.
All right, Matt, you're up. Matty, thoughts? What do you got?
I hurt all over, but it's good. It's good. It's nice to finish off. Good, obviously an awesome cause for a good buddy. Had an awesome time.
Now, you drove all the way from North Van. Was it worth it?
Actually, well, it was, of course. Now I'm a little worried about the 12-hour drive back home after sitting on my seat for, 90 kilometers? Yeah, a little worried about that, actually.
Now you got a romantic evening planned in Blue River. Any special plans, or are you just going to sleep?
Yeah, probably. I'm going to go with sleep on that one. I think so. Shower, hot tub, sleep.
Any special cream on your tape?
Taint rub.
Yeah, probably multiple layers, actually, yeah.
I have to say thank you to Janine for carting us around. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I'd do it again. I would come in.
Janine's married to Matt, so you heard it here. Matt's in for next year.
Yeah, I'm not even sore.
No, all I heard was Janine will come again, and she's not sore.
All right, I think that's a good place to cut her off.
John Wingrave, Alan Wingrave, Darren Zareko from the Heartbreakers, Matt Wilson, and Andrew Carpia.
X minus 1.